welcome everyone to Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining me for our conversation today. Thanks to our sponsor, Hurst Lamontes, an Indiana law firm with over 50 years of representing injured Hoosiers. We launched episode 1 a few months ago, and since then we've had a lot of support and some great conversations. Today is a very special day here at Circle City Conversations because I've got my longtime friend and fellow lawyer that I've known for many, many years, as we were just reminiscing, Mr. Nick Huang. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you were spot on, Alex. You're that good.
Look at that. Nick, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
All right. So we talked a little bit before we got on air about kind of your history and stuff, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Where are you from? Where were you born? Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So born in Chicago. My parents, mother and father, were originally from Taiwan. Father was from the southern portion of Taiwan. Mom was from the northern, in Taipei in particular. And so they both have their own stories, but they would both eventually land in Chicago. And so my early years were in Chicago, and father was an engineer. So he followed the automotive movement, and during grade school, he would eventually land a different position in Michigan, and so I spent a majority of my childhood up there.
Yeah. So what part of Michigan? Detroit area?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, so I'm going to use the Michigan hand, and so our listeners can't see this, but it's Saginaw, Michigan. Michigan, near the Bay Area. So about an hour and a half north of Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I really love that area during the summertime.
Oh, it's
beautiful, right?
It's beautiful. A lot of outdoor events, a lot of scenery, a lot of nature there.
Yeah,
a lot of fishing.
Right. Here's a question: have you ever been in Lake Michigan when it's not cold?
No, I've never. But some great memories, at least. Wrapped up with blankets and whatnot out there on a boat and with friends fishing, and it's a great time.
Yeah, you still do? Do you still do any fishing?
I don't. Ever since I moved down to Indianapolis here, haven't quite gone up to Michigan as much as I would like, but a lot of great memories.
Right. So you grew up in Michigan, graduated high school from Michigan?
That's correct.
What high school?
Heritage High School over there in Saginaw, Michigan. But from there, ended up going to University of Michigan for undergrad.
Okay. Went to University of Michigan, and then at a certain point, you were like, I'm going to go to law school. So what happened? Why'd you end up going to law school?
Sure. So interesting story. I started off as a computer science major during undergrad. Within that first semester, recognized computer science was just not for me.
Yeah.
So quickly, I switched over to econ. Ended up graduating with an econ degree. But probably about sophomore year, realized, hey, listen, I love the business. I like the econ classes I was taking. Wanted to do a bit more. Didn't necessarily want to be a financial advisor. Didn't want to, strictly focus on econ. Wanted to do maybe a mix of, the business and the law. And so that's where LSATs and the undergrad legal studies began. And that's where I developed that passion for the law. And so, at junior year, decided, hey, let's go for it. Yeah. Let's take that leap of faith and let's explore law schools. And the rest is history.
And so where'd you end up at law school?
So at that point, I ended up applying and got accepted to Valparaiso.
Oh, may she rest in peace.
Yes. Unfortunately, no longer with us today. But at the time, it was a thriving school and thought, hey, listen, let's keep going southbound, maybe get some better weather, although that lake effect wasn't very great. It wasn't very good for the travel. But it was a close market, nearby Chicago. So I thought, hey, there'd be some great opportunities there. Still have some roots here in Michigan. So I thought it'd be a good middle ground for me.
Yeah. Do you know Faith Alvarez? She's an attorney.
I don't.
She was on the show. She went to Valpo as well.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so you went to Valpo, graduated, and I see that you have your license in Indiana and in Illinois. So, which one came first?
So, last semester of law school, found a very important person that would eventually become my wife. So followed love. She's originally from the Indy area, and so she got her job first. So she was a prosecutor. So I followed her to Indianapolis. So that's how I ended here.
Yeah.
Of course, fast forward a number of years, we would eventually get married. But that's where my story began. In Indianapolis was really just a pursuit of love and a beginning of a career that I'm just so thankful for.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Your career. Did you start your law firm straight out of law school?
Yeah, when I graduated in 2005, the market was not good.
No.
Not good at all for lawyers. It was saturated. Law schools were at record highs in terms of attendance. The market just wasn't good. And so everybody was going to school because there was nothing else to do. And so it was a very difficult market regardless. And throughout, I always had this passion to be my own boss, to be a business owner, that entrepreneur mindset that you have, Alex. And so, one thing led to another, had an opportunity to work with a few folks that were sharing office space here in town. And, the opportunity rose that, hey, this core group of folks would bring me in to start a practice and mentor me. And, let's see, at this point, it would have been in early 2006 that I decided, hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take that leap of faith. I'm going to do something absolutely crazy and open up shop.
Yeah. So you went into what was, I guess we could call it like an association of lawyers.
Yes.
And you guys all did different things, right?
That's correct.
Let's talk about that. So
Sure.
You had a criminal lawyer, consumer protection.
Absolutely. So, we had one that focused, like you said, on criminal law, one that focused on consumer. At the time, we had one that had a lot of IP, intellectual property background. We had one that was mainly focused on civil work, civil litigation, civil work transaction. And so we had different individuals. It would fluctuate anywhere between 7 to 9 folks in that association. The individual, my mentor, was primarily focused on civil work, civil litigation, and that's where I would eventually follow. I would follow his footsteps. I would, essentially take over a lot of his caseload, help him with his cases while I was still training, developing my own book of business. And so my early passion, just because of the business background, was really civil focused.
Okay. And when you say civil litigation, are you talking more plaintiff side, defense side, or a mix?
Little bit of both. Bit of both. Really business centric, but it depends on what came in the door that day, right, Alex? Because think about it. This was the beginning of my career. I didn't know anything.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't making a whole lot of money, and I needed to figure out how to put food on the table.
Right.
And so whether it was a referral from other colleagues, whether it's my mentor that was giving me certain assignments, you took pretty much whatever came in the door.
Absolutely.
And you worked hard at it.
Yeah. So let's talk about, that kind of developing that book of business, If we've got some younger listeners maybe that are thinking about starting their own practice or even law students, what advice would you give them about how to develop that book of business?
Without a doubt, it's all about the networking.
Yeah.
It's about making good friends for, both professional and personal reasons, but, I think naturally, over time, in a very organic manner, friends will think of you when, their friends need help or they need help. And joining the local bar association, critical, right? You're networking with other lawyers, and they need somebody to take care of certain types of cases that perhaps their firm is not covering or not a good match, right? And so a lot of those early stages was just all about just getting out there, joining different organizations, meeting new friends, meeting new people, making sure that you weren't behind closed doors, that you were out there in the community volunteering. So it's a hodgepodge of different types of ways to connect with people, but that ultimately helped me the most as I was trying to build my initial book of business.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, man. I mean, that kind of grassroots kind of networking and developing, those relationships. That's what's going to last, right?
Oh yeah.
Anyone can throw up a billboard,
sure,
right?
Sure. And
have their name on it or their face, but being top of mind when they need your help, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you did that for almost 10 years?
That's correct. Those first 10 years, Alex, and we had talked about this a little bit before we started today, was perhaps the most adventurous, scary, and fulfilling 10 years of my career.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And so some of those, and your wife was a prosecutor, right?
Yes, at the time. Yeah.
So, you definitely had to help put food on the table.
Sure. Yeah. No, the government wasn't exactly paying her top dollar.
No.
And so, and I understood, that's just the nature of our finances here in the nation. But, that's where, there was a great partnership there. And while she had certain perks working for the government,
right.
I also had certain perks in private practice. And so, it was a good balance, for the family unit.
So you did that for 10 years, and then where'd you go next?
Yeah, so at that point, I had transferred firms to Harrison Moberly here in town, and they're now on the north side here of Indy. But at the time, as the practice grew, so did the resources and the needs that the clients had. So Harrison and Moberly, after a couple rounds of interviews, was a great fit for me. I was there for about 7 years at this point, and just a great dynamic group of practitioners over there.
Yeah,
a lot of great friends, a lot of great memories, and they had really helped me build upon what I established in the first 10 years, and from there, continue to build that practice.
So let's talk about maybe practice area. Were you doing the same kind of stuff at Harrison Moberly than you were doing before?
Sure. So, Alex, when you start off practice, like I said, and I meant what I said, you kind of had to take what came in the door, right? And so while your passion may be, at this point for me, business, I would, for example, I took on a conflict contract with the Marion County Public Defender's office. I handled drug cases in particular, and so here you're thinking, hey, I'm hiring this business attorney, but yet on the side he's handling drug cases. What's the correlation between the two? Well, I'd say, in practice there probably wasn't any correlation between the two, but Alex, as you can appreciate this in your years of experience. The more you're in that courtroom, the more you're in front of judges, the more you're, among your brothers and sisters in this legal community, you're out there, and so to answer your question, I was taking on criminal cases, but I was also taking on business cases, a little bit of family law mixed in there for a period of time, which not for me, and that's not necessarily for everyone, but I did take on, quite a few different types of cases during those first 10 years. Well, when I got to Harrison and Moberly, was I able to kind of focus more. And at this point, I would focus on the business and the real estate side, more the transactional side. We We had some phenomenal litigators there, so
Yeah.
I could rely on the litigation team to take care of those kinds of cases. We had lots of different specialty areas where I was able now to leverage different leads in those respects, so I could focus on what I did best.
Yeah. Was that a conscious decision on your part, getting away from litigation, getting more towards the transactional side?
Boy, that's a really good question. It just happened organically.
Really?
Right. And I think because as time progresses, at this point, I've got 3 little boys and, running a full-time practice, needing help from other partners and other associates. Life's interesting like that. And as you get busier and busier and time is, so precious, it just happened where I just couldn't do it myself anymore. Right. And so that's part of why I transitioned, and part of how, as a team, at Harrison Moberly, we just sort of decided, hey, Nick, you focus on this, I'll focus on this. And that way everybody had their position and role in certain cases. And it just worked out very well. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how long were you at Harrison Moberly?
So this would be approximately 7 years at this point. So at this point, great 7 years, phenomenal 7 years, and met a lot of great people during that time, and still very, very close friends with my friends over at Harrison and Moberly. But I would be there for 7.
And where'd you go after that?
So at this point, then I landed at my current destination, Frost Brown Todd, and I've now been at Frost Brown Todd for the past a little bit over a year and a half.
Yeah. Are you doing the same type of work?
Yes.
Okay.
To a different degree, still the business, still following my passion, haven't strayed too far from it. But at this point, a lot of my day-to-day is outside general counsel work. For businesses. I do a lot of their acquisitions, some of their real estate, regulatory compliance, a lot of corporate governance, dealing with different contracts. It's like how I always explain it is I'm your ER doctor. I'm your triage. I'm your first line of defense. Those issues or expansion efforts will start with me, and what will happen is I will rely upon other partners and associates to help fill in the needs of the client. So I get the first call, figure out what needs to happen. I'll work with our C-suites and either triage or work on whatever transaction documents are necessary. And then behind the scenes, I've got an army of attorneys that are anxious and willing to support me.
Right. So you said outside general counsel work, essentially a company maybe that doesn't have their own lawyer on staff. You're kind of operating as that individual?
Yes. In large part, I would say the companies, the small to medium, that don't quite want to make that financial commitment to a full-time in-house attorney, they'll use me in that traditional role. I would also say that there are other companies that do have in-house counsel, but that in-house counsel is just one person.
You're supplementing.
And frankly, I then almost act as their assistant in that sense, and kind of complement what needs they may have and what they frankly don't have necessarily the talent for in-house to address. Right. Yeah. And a lot of times it just comes down to just needing a second opinion or different forms or different nuanced skills that they just can't afford on their own. And so I come in to complement, and it's always a great time to work with, whether it's the C-suites or in-house. It's always a pleasure to have that partnership.
Absolutely. So I have we did our research here. Okay, and that's what we do here.
Impressive.
At Circle City Conversations. I made Emmanuel do it, but he's really the one in charge. We have I'm going to read this review. Okay, it says he has extremely high professional standards and always provides excellent counsel for my business. In fact, he was just one of 2 attorneys recommended to me by the American Bar Association It says ABA of Indiana. When I first sought counsel for my small business. So how does that make you feel?
Well, I'm honored whoever wrote that. I'm not sure who wrote that, but it makes you feel good. It gives you that warm and fuzzy to say, hey, I've hopefully made an impact on this person's life or their business, and it's what keeps us motivated to go to work every day.
Right. I Nick, I got to tell you, I love how you humanize the business side of the legal world. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, someone like me, I've never really represented businesses. Sometimes you think of it and it seems so dry, almost robotic, but you really, and now especially that I'm a business owner, you stop to think about it. These are just people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Alex, your observation is absolutely correct. Businesses, for our business owners, that's their passion, that's their life, right. And it's their baby, so to speak. And when their baby is either threatened or there's an opportunity to go in different places and take them to new levels, it's so much fun to be part of that adventure.
Yeah,
and so, but it is very personal and it is an intimate relationship, and so. It's very common that, I'm working late nights, off hours over the weekend to try and put out those fires if there is a fire to put out, or bounce ideas to make sure we've got a strategic plan to grow the business. And so, it's a very, very personal relationship. And that's where I don't think when I first started practice that it would get to this point. I just thought, hey, this is a bunch of numbers and metrics, and we've got to hit certain goals to expand and open up a different division or sell off a different division, however it may work, and it's non-emotional. But I've learned very differently now. Right.
And I feel like, especially maybe even since COVID, it's just become more personal and you get more emotionally involved. You've got staff, employees that don't really care about the money, they want to feel like they're part of something,
Oh, I agree that I think ever since COVID, the pandemic, the dynamics of business has really, really changed in so many different ways. And how not just some of the metrics, like, and I agree with you, it's beyond the metrics. It's how we function as a culture, a workplace culture. Right? How do you maintain it? How do you address certain issues now that you never had to address in the past?
Yeah.
So very different.
Yeah. So a couple of things here I want to go over. You were in the Indy Bar's prom court, weren't you?
Yes,
is that right?
I was.
Yes, I
didn't
was. Win, sadly.
Not my idea, but somehow I got on prom court. Never thought I would ever be in that position. Obviously, an honor to be there. Did not win, thankfully, so I didn't have to make a speech at the end. But yes, I was, and it was fun to be part of the experience.
Yeah, that was funny when they put that up. I've got a picture of you here that was featured in the Indianapolis Star, you and your son Dexter at a festival. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this has been since 2015. It looks like, so it's a long time ago. Going on 9 years here. Dexter was probably, I think, he's 12 now, so he was 3 or 4 at the time, and
great age, by the way.
Fun age,
right?
Very fun age. Their imaginations are over the place, and this was a opportunity. I think this particular weekend, my wife was somewhere, and so I took the twins to the local Asian American festival here downtown by the canal. And we happened to be outside taking a little break, and Dexter wanted to have a little closer look at the canal, and you can probably see me, holding on to his shirt so that he doesn't fall in, right? I didn't realize it, but I think a reporter or a photographer happened to be there and saw Dexter looking over at the canal, and and me nervously holding him so that he didn't fall in, and where I kind of wonder is where was my other twin. So
Right.
I don't know, but yeah, I remember this picture vividly, and after it got featured, Alex, I just also recall specifically that our local legal community saw the picture. A number of judges, number of fellow brothers and sisters just started emailing me and saying, "Hey, Nick, I saw you and your son in the picture, and this is great event, but also just a great time for you and your son to be together." So I was just taken back by it. I obviously had no idea this photographer was doing this, and then they reached out to me and say, "Hey, can we have your permission to publish?"
Yeah. It is. It really is a great picture. We'll make sure we put it if you're okay with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about your license, dual licensed in Indiana and Illinois. That's one thing we have in common. I've got my Florida license and Indiana license.
That's good to know. I didn't realize you were licensed there.
I am.
Real quick. So what ended up happening is after, I got established here in Indianapolis, I had several clients, one in particular, that just had so much work in that Northwest Indiana area and Chicago area. And so with that, client demand, it made sense at that point with a couple other levels of demands at the time for other clients. I went ahead and applied for reciprocity. And so that's why I ended up with both Illinois and Indiana licensure.
That's nice. I was a full-time public defender, but I had to go take the Florida bar. It was actually when I first met you, right around when I first joined that the fantasy football league.
Absolutely.
So that was a really cool spot you guys had in that association.
Well, first and foremost, I don't envy you having to take the Florida bar. That is a very, very challenging bar.
It was tough.
And I can only imagine what you went through genuinely to get through that and get licensed. Especially when you had a full caseload at the time at the PD's office. That's tremendous, and the financial investment into that, is no joke. So kudos to you for taking that on. But that fantasy league was a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Do you still play?
I do. I do.
Same league?
Yeah, same league, Alex.
My gosh.
Believe it or not, I've stayed with it, and I'm happy to report that I was with my son's help, Dexter, the one that was featured in that photograph. He has really taken to fantasy football, so he helped coach me last year. So I was a co-winner.
Oh, nice.
Co-winner last year. There was a sort of a tie situation, and then this year, unfortunately, I did not win. I came in third place, but had I listened to my son, I think we plotted it out. I could have won it all.
You could have won.
Could have, but I did. I chose not to listen to him, so he gives me a hard time now.
That's funny. So I'm not going to list all of your accolades because there's a lot of them, including super lawyers, distinguished fellows, up and coming lawyer. But a lot of work with Asian Pacific Bar Associations, Asian-based, community-based organizations, and so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Your family's Taiwanese, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you're also a big supporter of diversity, especially in the law.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So when I say that word diversity, what does that mean to you?
Well, the short answer is an openness and accepting of people with different backgrounds. Yeah. And so, yes, I am active in the diversity bar. I took that, I sort of developed that passion, when I started, here in Indianapolis in 2006 at this point, right? And I recognize around me that diversity wasn't either a focal point or there just wasn't a whole lot, by way of population. And so I thought, well, I can't necessarily on my own attract people to Indianapolis and raise necessarily an army of diverse attorneys here in town. But what I could do is help with the education and awareness component, right? And so, it would be years later that we call it APABA, the Asian Pacific American Bar Association of Indiana. We call it APABA Indiana. We would informally meet and collaborate and have good conversation. But we formally incorporated in late 2014.
Okay.
APABA Indiana. So that's just one example of a group that I've been affiliated with from the beginning, and it's a group and an organization that has really developed and gained significant traction here in the state of Indiana.
But APABA is a national organization, right?
Well, so APABA Indiana is an affiliate of the national organization, NAPABA.
NAPABA, National Asian
National
Pacific.
Yep,
okay,
exactly. So APABA is really the local chapter of NAPABA. So, but prior to technically 2014, there was no officially formal organization here in Indiana.
Right.
And so we're really proud of putting Indiana on the spot. And making sure that we've got a voice here in Indiana, and that we do count and that we do matter.
And speaking of, we hosted the NAPABA convention, right?
Yes. So
and that's great for our local economy too. There was a ton of people here.
That was tremendous. So I always refer to the NAPABA convention as the Super Bowl of APA events, right? For lawyers at least. And so back in 2019, Alex, APABA Indiana was asked to host the Central Regional Conference, first time. We did it in our history, and I think the delegates from NAPABA were very delighted and impressed, and so that led to us building our resume, showing them what Indianapolis could provide by way of resources, by way of community. And so it would be obviously this past year, 2023, that we eventually hosted NAPABA. And to your point, there was a lot of infrastructure put towards it. We had a little under 2,200 APA attorneys in attendance. Great success.
Yeah. And with those conventions, I've been to a ton of them. They really do bring a lot more than just the lawyers. They will come with families, staff, eat at local restaurants, support local businesses. Yeah.
No, and this is why it was just so important for us to have that opportunity, Alex. We don't know when the Super Bowl will come back. Right? We really don't know.
No.
I mean, it may never. Right.
Yeah.
And so this was the one time that we had to do it. We had to do it right. We had to make sure that we provided them with our local Indiana support, because, like you said, it's supporting our local community.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to do that, and we just don't know when we're going to have that chance again. So just a tremendous experience.
Yeah. So have you ever been to Taiwan?
I have.
You have?
Yeah. My parents took us when we were much younger, sort of took a little bit of a gap there. Life happens, right? And then I would go again a few more times in high school and college as well. But middle years, not so much, but early and then later years.
Yeah.
And so I'm still itching for an opportunity to take my children there for the first time.
Oh, so your boys haven't been there?
Not yet. Not yet. We were hoping that we would take them so that they'd remember a little bit older.
Yeah,
so remember everything.
Got to be older.
Yeah. But then, of course, pandemic hit. And not quite the right time to travel. But I'm hoping whether it's this year or next year, we'll have that opportunity finally to have that cultural experience and learn about their heritage. Looking forward to it.
And I bet the food. Right?
Amazing. The night markets and just the variety and just unique foods. I think the kids will learn a lot.
That's, man, I mean, I'm a big guy, so it's clear. I love food. But anyways, I do.
And I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
But I was just in Miami for a conference, and I'm from there originally. My family's Cuban, and that's all Cuban culture down there. And I remember sitting down and eating. I was by myself. I was eating a meal, and it was like all these memories came back as a kid, like rushing back, right? Just from the food, man.
It's so amazing how food can just spark all these different memories,
right.
and whether it's the food itself, you're remembering where you were at the restaurant or the people you're around, but it just, to me, it brings a lot of joy in terms of family time and all the times that when I was young and in Chicago with our extended family, it was always food centric, right?
Right.
And so those kinds of memories always are brought back with some of this, what I call comfort food.
Right. And we all have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's. Are there any good Taiwanese restaurants in Indy?
Taiwanese, no. We had one or two.
COVID,
but if COVID didn't help, one shut down. We might have one, but I'm not sure, quite frankly, how well they're doing. But true Taiwanese based restaurant. Not that I'm
got to go to Chicago. Probably.
Yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant in Chicago?
Well.
Tough question.
That's a tough question. I can tell you which one I frequent the most, which is Joy Yee's, and that's mainly because my boys love boba.
Yes,
and they love the bubble tea.
Yeah,
and so Joy Yee's, the food's great. Don't get me wrong; it's more fusion based, but it's that bubble tea that they absolutely love, and so we end up going there the most. Among the Chicago restaurants.
Awesome. There's kind of a fusion place right off Mass Ave called Modita. I don't know if you've been there.
I've not been there yet.
It's
good.
I mean, it's
done.
Really, really good.
I would love to check it out.
I grew up Cuban. We eat rice and beans with every meal, and then some kind of protein. So especially when I started dating my wife, we really ventured out different cultures, trying different foods. So I'm all about it.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. So are you a Chicago dog guy? You like Chicago dogs?
I do like them. I don't necessarily go out of my way to grab them, but I do like them.
Yeah. Were you a Cubs fan growing up?
Yes. Yeah. Growing up, I was definitely a Cubs fan. I was a Bears fan as well.
Mm-hmm. In Detroit? Not Detroit, or Saginaw?
So once we got to Saginaw, at the time, the Tigers weren't doing that well.
No.
I don't know that they, years later they would, do all right. But and my allegiance was still to the Bears, so I didn't really track the Lions very well. But of course, big fan of Barry Sanders. So I would, he was a beast. So I would follow him, but I would still stay close to my roots in Chicago.
I mean. So did you? I don't know if you saw on Prime, they did a documentary on him. It is amazing.
Is it? I've seen interviews about that. Yeah. I haven't watched it yet. I saw it the other day when I was scrolling through, and I'd like to watch it. Yeah,
you should definitely check it out. I grew up a Cowboys fan because I had to be, because my stepdad, he was like, "You're a Cowboys fan because you're my son. You're a Cowboys fan." So. And I grew up in the 90s watching Emmitt Smith and Barry duke it out, two great
Hall of Famers,
great running backs.
Yeah. They're both just star players that everybody knows to this day.
Right. What's your favorite sport to watch? Football, baseball, maybe basketball?
I'm a college football fan.
College football
fan. So
Michigan.
I'm a Wolverine, and fortunate what happened a few weeks ago, and just grateful for that win.
Yeah.
But the last time they did that was 97.
I know. It's crazy.
98. They tied. So it's been a long time.
Crazy.
Long time. So I'm just grateful. I hope in my lifetime there'll be another win like that, but I'm okay. I'm content right now. I'm going to just soak it up and appreciate the win.
Exactly. She's a lawyer. Her name's Julie Chambers. She does a lot. Yeah. She's Michigan.
She is.
She's a Michigan alumni. Yeah.
Yes, Julie is a Wolverine as well, and I'm sure she was glowing that night that they.
I bet
they locked in the championship. But I think with all the recent changes and staffing and a couple folks going to the draft now, I think they're going to still be a strong team, and I'm looking forward to the next season.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, man. Well, what's next for you, Nick? What's next on the radar there?
That's a great question. Well, on the professional side, with the platform that I'm at right now, I think there's room for growth on the diversity aspect, and I recently joined the DEI committee there at Frost Brown Todd. So it's going to be a new venture for me in 2024. So I'm looking forward to that and working with our team and developing that segment of where we can continue to promote diversity and making sure clients are part of that picture too, with collaboration. So working on that segment, in terms of, the legal community, I'm going to still continue to play my roles with NAPABA or APABA or the Indie Bar, which, Alex, you're active, of course, in the Bar Association. And, you understand its importance and making sure, we provide the next gen with resources and support that they're going to need to navigate, challenges themselves. So, want to continue to work with the local community as well. But, other than that, I think it's just going to be a matter of just continuing to help clients and reach new levels of greatness for them. And, hopefully along the way, we'll get a couple more reviews like that. And, but, really, it's just amazing when clients, come back and just thank you. And it's just a great way to, see that, hey, some of the work that you're doing has been impactful and that the work that you're doing matters.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we do what we do, man. Whether you help an individual, who owns a business by helping the business, at the end of the day, we decided to do this because we feel a need to go out and help.
I agree.
Someone.
I agree.
And so I firmly believe that's, a common thread between a lot of them.
I agree.
Yeah. If anyone that's out there listening, if they want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. A couple ways. First and foremost, I've got my direct dial, 317-237-3489. You can also type in Frost Brown Todd in Google and company directory. Just look me up. Again, Nick, last name Huang, Huang. And finally, I'll give you my email address real quick.
Sure.
NHUANG@FBTlaw.com.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure we post that as well so everyone can get that information. Nick, thank you so much for being on the show.
Alex, it was an absolute honor, and I appreciate all you do for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more future conversations.